What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I'm going to help you guys level up your gameplay a little bit by sharing some excellent and very useful jump spots on at least many of the maps in Modern Warfare 2. I've actually got enough to make this a two-part series for right now, and I may even include more in the future. And for those wondering, yes, this will be a replacement for my Maps Exposed series where I used to go through map by map, but I just found with the maps in this game, some of them only really have like a couple interesting spots to share, whereas others have a ton of spots, so the series would just be way too inconsistent, and therefore I decided to just blend them all together. One last thing to keep in mind before we get into these jump spots, some of these will be a bit on the obvious side, especially to those of you guys that grind this game super hard. This is designed to be accessible to even like newer players or just players that haven't really explored as much. So while not all of these will be brand new to you, I'm willing to bet there will be very few of you guys watching this video that know every single one of these spots before watching. And without further ado, let's get into the jump spots, and we're going to start this off on Mercado. And for this two-story building up here can be quite annoying, especially when you get people camping up there, just locking down the windows. If you're coming from this direction, all you have to do is jump up to this wall here. You obviously can't linger here. You start the countdown that will end up killing you if you stay in that spot. But this does give you plenty of time to run across this wall and then jump up and mantle into the window. This is an excellent jump spot to take out those people that are just kind of locking down the doorways down below, thinking that that's the only place that you can get in there from that direction. As for the only other jump spot that I found on this particular map, this is to get into the second story of this building in a unique way that's different from the two stairways that everybody expects and likely has claymores on if they are camping in this building. And with this, what you want to do is jump onto this table, and then you kind of have to like shimmy and jump your way up onto this little heater. From there, you can jump on top of this awning and this awning only, and then from that awning, you can of course just mantle into the window or just shoot the people from outside. Keep in mind, it only works on that awning. If you try to jump to the other one, there's an invisible barrier there that just prevents you from doing that. This is just an interesting way to attack the second story of this building. But then let's move on to the next map, and we're going to cover Bagra Fortress. The first thing I want to point out is they did patch a spot that some pro players found early on in the game's life cycle. You used to be able to jump onto the gallows, and then from there was like a little ledge that you could stand on. That you can no longer do. However, nearby there is a way to get into these windows. This is a very specialized spot. Normally, you wouldn't really want to bother with this, but who knows? There may be a situation at some point that may arise, and it's good to have this in your tool belt at least and know that this is possible. With this, you just need to get on top of the truck, and then from there, jump to the top of this sign, and then from that sign, you want to sprint and jump and just try to catch that mantle on the window, and that gets you up into this second story, and that's something that most people just wouldn't see coming at all. As for the next thing, this one is fairly obvious, but just in case you didn't know, you can just jump onto the park bench and then get on top of this roof here. Gets you a bit of a different angle looking down on that really common choke point there, and enemies may not see that one coming. And then of course from there you can jump over to the truck, and from the truck you can jump to the balcony. So there's plenty of different jump spots in this area, but like I said, most of these are pretty common knowledge at this point. As for the next one, this is one that I actually use very frequently and have been since launch. With this, if you want to get to these windows, just jump onto these crates, jump over, catch that mantle, and there you go. You're now in the second story. They almost never see this one coming, and it's just a great way to get up to the second story without having to go through all of the common choke points that they would expect. Now, on a similar note, but much more surprisingly, we can also jump to this window right here. This one's a little tricky, but with some practice, you can do it pretty much every single time. All you gotta do is jump on the little railing going down the stairs, and then from there, you just gotta time your jump nicely and jump across, catch that mantle, and you're now in the window. As for the next one, I'll fully admit this is not a very practical spot, but again, it's nice to just have in your tool belt just to know that you can do this. You can jump on top of this horse statue, jump right over top of the rider, and then from there jump to the balcony. You are extremely exposed while doing this though, and that's why I say this isn't really a super practical spot. As for the next one, this one's more of just a time saver than anything. If you are trying to mantle to get up onto this balcony, instead of mantling onto the big box and then the small box and then over the railing, that's 3 different mantle animations to take care of. You can mantle straight up to this awning right here, and now you only need 2 mantles to get over that railing. And also, this is a much better spot to sort of head glitch and look into that building where you may have somebody trying to just lock you back into spawn. So this is just a great way to try to break a spawn trap here as well. Now finally for this video, we're gonna move on to Taraq, and this has a ridiculous amount of spots, so let's just dive right into it. First thing I want to talk about is this little building right here. It is quite a useful building. You're often going to have people camping up there, and it's just nice to know the alternatives to get up there. Instead of just taking the stairs, you can jump up to this like AC unit or whatever it is. You can mantle up there and get directly into the window. That can be nice to avoid some lines of sight from that corner spawn that you have enemies often coming out of and just locking down as well. Additionally, if you're coming from the front side of that building and for whatever reason you can't really reasonably flank around to the back and get up the stairs, here are just a couple different methods for getting up from the front side of this building that weren't immediately obvious to me. It actually took me a little while to realize that I could get up into the second story from this side of the building, but there are multiple ways that you can do that. After that, I use this one all the time for the people that love camping back in this building here. They'll sit up in the second story, they got their back covered by a claymore, and they never see this one coming. If you jump onto the wall, then to the awning, and then over, you can catch a mantle, get on that railing, and you'll take them by surprise 9 times out of 10. Next up, this is a little bit more of a line of sight, but I guess it involves jumping onto something. If you mantle onto this area right here, it opens up a ton of lines of sight for you. So if you're using a long-range gun like a sniper rifle or something, you can actually shut down a good portion of the map from this location right here. So just make sure you remember that, because that one is quite useful with long-range weapons. As for this middle building here, I'm sure many of you guys already know this, but for those that don't, this might blow your mind a little. You can jump directly to these awnings, catch a mantle, and get into that second story, and this is incredible for taking out those people that love camping right on the top of the stairs right here. They'll usually have claymores or something covering the stairs because they think that's the only way in, and it's very rare that they expect you to jump through the second story window. As for the next one, this one's super situational, but it's good to know at least. You can jump up onto this area right there, and then from there, if you just move forward and press the jump button again, you'll sort of pop up onto a little ledge, and with that, you can look over top and down into the doorway there, or you can look a little to the left as well, and you can cover that area there. I believe that's a hardpoint location as well. So this one can potentially be very useful in a specific situation, but of course, you are also quite exposed up here, so I wouldn't linger here for very long. As for the next one, this one's pretty crazy and opens up an insane number of lines of sight, but it also exposes you a little bit. If you're up in this second story, instead of just using the window, jump onto the stool, jump across to this, and just look at all the lines of sight that you have. But of course, keep in mind, that means all of these areas also have a line of sight on you, but you often do have the element of surprise because people typically aren't looking in this area for somebody that's like peeking over top of a wall. Also, just a little alternative from up here as well. If you just want to challenge that balcony and you're in this second story, you can jump over to this little area right here and look at that little spot. This is a very limiting spot, so it's not like camping here is going to yield a lot of kills, but in a very specific situation where you know somebody's set up there, it may be in your best interest to simply jump across, get that kill really quick, and then move on from there. Next, focusing on that same building, you can actually get into the window if you jump to this awning right here, mantle up, and then just jump across and try to catch a mantle here. This one is a bit tricky to do consistently, but once you master it, it is a very useful jump spot. On a similar note, just for fun, you could also jump this way and catch a mantle here, and then you can even jump to the side a little bit and keep catching a ledge, and you could just sort of hang out here and then drop down on somebody. That's more for like a cool cinematic kill, or if you're just messing around or something. I just thought it was interesting to point that out. After that one, if you find yourself in this broken building right here, if you use the couch to jump across to this little ledge right here, it actually opens up a great line of sight into that second story there, and you could potentially take those campers by surprise and easily pick them off from here. As for the next one, I'm embarrassed to admit it actually took me a lot longer than you might think to realize you could do this, because I wasn't really properly exploring the map, but you can jump up onto this area here to get some better cover to challenge people that are across in this side of the map. Then another fairly obvious thing, but I wanted to point this out because I don't see people taking advantage of this. If you spawn on this side of the map, a lot of times you want to get up onto the balcony for whatever reason, and instead of coming all the way around and exposing yourself to a big portion of the map and using the stairs, you could simply jump on top of the wall and then from the wall jump onto the balcony. And finally, I have a super situational line of sight sort of jump spot here, and that is from all the way back on this side of the map. If you jump on top of the roof here, or use the ladder, and then get on top of this blue barrel, through that window right there, if you have an enemy camping in that second story, which is very common, you can actually get a nice clean line of sight on them there. And obviously you'd want a good long-range weapon for that gunfight, but they just never see this one coming, and this often results in a free kill against a camper. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for part 1 of some excellent jump spots that I've been able to find on these maps for you guys. I should have the second part of this coming at least at some point within the next week or so make sure you guys stay tuned for that one. And if you guys enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.